All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Kyle Welch with RCR Wireless News. I want to thank everyone for attending Cloud Transformation, Tackling Growing Challenges, presented by CENTRI Technology. Our presenter today is Vaughan Emery, CEO and President of CENTRI Technology. And at this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to Vaughan.
Thank you, Kyle. Hello and welcome. Thank you for attending our seminar on cloud transformation. This is the first of a series of webinars where we'll address many of the issues presented and relating to cloud services. In follow-on seminars, we'll dig into some of the topics. We picked transformation as the placeholder here to just really drive home that this is a significant change in how enterprises, business executives, and IT individuals look at the way of delivering services. To level set, cloud computing is really virtualization of cloud processing hardware, cloud applications, cloud storage in a pay-as-you-go, use-as-you-go model. For our agenda today, we'll introduce a number of polling questions in a moment. We'll talk about cloud transformation. We'll cover advantages, challenges. We'll talk specifically about financial services sector, and we'll address issues around security, optimization, and latency. So we'll open up polling now to start the process and give everybody just a couple of moments to respond. How familiar are you and how long have you been using cloud services? Great, okay, let's pick it back up. Migrating to cloud is really accelerating enterprise. We see an adoption rate in many of the pollings that we've done, that other entities like KPMG have done. Migration to cloud is really accelerating. By 2017, projected revenues will be into the $230 billion, which is great. It shows a rapid adoption. Many of the issues, many of the applications they're set is software as a service. Software as a service is really about delivering applications where users can take advantage of cloud services. Microsoft, Exchange, Salesforce, these are software as a services. Platform as a service, these are more platform level solutions. HP, Helion, OpenStack, Google, App Engine. Infrastructure as a service is really more about providing the baseline infrastructure. Amazon Web Services, most of us think about public cloud, we think about Amazon, Microsoft, Azure. And finally, data as a service. This is the idea that the data sets are being delivered to users of cloud services. Google Public Data is one of the data as a service areas. Cloud advantages really focus on the flexibility. It's a way by which enterprises can take advantage of third-party scaling, third-party availability. Accessibility is about ubiquitous access. In cloud computing, it's anywhere, anytime, any device. Cost efficiency is really about economy of scale, using third-party services to drive the deployment and the use of cloud services. Operational efficiency has a lot to do with business process changes, shifting of resources to focus more on the business issues versus IT issues. Improved automation, the ability to turn systems on in an automated fashion, scaling as business process requires more computing power, responding to seasonal events like the holidays, promotional activities. And finally, it allows enterprises to focus on core competency. So in certain industries, competency is not IT, allows the organization to focus their resources really on what they do best. And sustainability, it's really about green, lowering cost of energy, more sustainability. One of the issues that we hear about is in security. Is cloud really more secure? Is it less secure? It's a debatable topic. In many ways, we think that it's perhaps a barrier to adoption in cloud. And we'll talk about that here in moments. Some of the challenges that we see, it's around bottleneck of the WAN bandwidth. So as enterprises move applications into public cloud, private cloud, or hybrid, there's more demand on bandwidth. These applications are no longer co-located; they're somewhere else in the world, and you need to buy more bandwidth. And that's one of the challenges, is making sure there's adequate bandwidth to deliver the services. The cost of bandwidth is also a factor. Data cost, or price per gigabyte, is a typical model for public and private cloud. Upload costs are generally low cost. Download, the delivery of data services to subscribers, relatively high cost. So that represents a change in how CapEx, OpEx is looked at relative to cloud. With systems moving off-prem to cloud, there's the introduction of network latency. Network response time, application time, endpoint processing time, and movement of key resources, key systems off-prem to a third party introduces latency. And in some applications, especially around financial services, latency is not acceptable. We'll talk about that in a moment. We'll suggest some ways by which latency can be reduced. Security is really one of the biggest barriers to adoption. In our polling and in third-party activity, it looks like security is really one of the issues that keeps enterprises from moving into the cloud. We think about security in a couple of ways: security of data in transit, security of data at rest, authentication and access security. These are all security-related issues that the industry is trying to get their heads around. In the financial sector, a lot of the challenges around availability, making sure that it's not just available, but it's 5 nines. In many of the public cloud environments, there's already been situations where access to applications and services are not up to the requirements of the enterprise customers or financial services. Lack of standards is also one of the challenges. There's no interoperability between one public cloud provider and another, or one private cloud provider and another. Standards are one of the barriers, certainly evolving. Data protection, data in transit, and data at rest. Cloud Security Alliance is one of the organizations that it's looking at bringing best practices to cloud and cloud security. They have a list of notorious 9 threats that they're impeding cloud and cloud adoptions. Things like data breach, which is the loss of data compromised by third parties accessing databases, applications in a colo environment. Data loss is the loss of and that data. Account hacking, third parties gaining access to user information by spoofing access. Insecure APIs. All of these systems are dependent upon APIs to keep them going, and parallel hacks against APIs that are not secured is one of the risks. Malicious insiders, individuals that are gaining access to physical systems. Now that changes as enterprises move to cloud environments, no longer the physical issues. Abuse of cloud services by hackers is one of the issues raised by CSA. The collection of a lot of horsepower. People with malintent can use that horsepower against strong encryption is one example. Insufficient diligence. This is green pastures for cloud computing. Many companies are starting cloud environments. Recognize the industry leaders there: Amazon, Microsoft, IBM, Hewlett-Packard. But there are many others, and customers that move into that space without doing diligence on the providers is an area of concern. And then just shared technology. Many of the systems that are in cloud environment are not designed for multi-tenant co-location. They're standard computers, standard network infrastructure, not really designed for multi-tenancy. So these are just a few of the issues that groups like Cloud Security Alliances are exposing, trying to bring best practices to the industry. So let's have another poll. It's around security. How important is security for migration to cloud? Very important, somewhat important, not very important. Okay. So what we see is very important. One of the leading barriers to cloud adoption is security. No surprise, it shows up in all of the industry studies. The concern is that if enterprises put their data in the hands of a third party, what are the risks? Loss of data, systems being backed up. Is there a chance that the data is going to be deleted? Data breach, access to that data by third parties for the wrong intent, and then certainly, the interfaces in multi-tenant environments. What can be done to reduce that risk? Data encryption is one of the things that we think about when we think about securing that data. Encryption can be encryption in transport and encryption at rest. Encryption has double-sided benefits. It certainly can reduce the potential of somebody gaining access to that data. Without the keys to decrypt, it's no good. It's just data. What we see is one of the ways to mitigate that overall risk is really to encrypt it at point of entry, the endpoint client, all the way through network, which is in transit, and then leave that data in an encrypted manner while it's at rest, while it's stored for later use. That brings up key management. Key management is one of the most complicated parts of encryption. If the keys are lost, encrypted data is no good. How do you manage hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of keys to data? That's one of the issues that the industry faces. Standards, public key can be applied, but still some issues around managing public keys. Let's go to the next poll question. Data optimization. How important is data optimization for cloud subscribers? As applications move into the cloud, there's a need for efficiency, lower cost, improved performance, and optimization is one of the ways that can make that happen. Okay, it's about a 50-50 mix there on optimization. It's often a misunderstood benefit. Optimization is somewhat synonymous with compression. Compression in legacy is really reducing the amount of storage that files take. Time was not a factor. Today, compression over networks, time is a factor. Time's actually one of the most important factors. Reducing response time produces negative user experience, and that's not one of the benefits of cloud. We don't want to go that direction. Data optimization that uses stream ciphers is one of the ways to reduce compression time, decompression time. Rather than using block compression, it's compression at a bit rate. One of the benefits of optimization is to deploy technologies that use compression in a streaming manner versus a block manner. Lossless versus lossy, these are two different compression methodologies. In transactional systems, it's really all about lossless. Lossy is more audio, video, and media, rich media formats. Again, not necessarily transactional oriented. Whoops. The fourth polling question is data latency. How important is latency relative to cloud migration? Very important, somewhat not important at all. Okay, looks like nearly 3/4 view latency is very important in migration to cloud. Certainly understand that any additional time, response time, network time, application time, all have a negative impact, and many of you are concerned about that. It links with the technologies used for compression and encryption. If latency is introduced in compression, it's counterintuitive and benefits are lost. If latency is introduced in encryption, same applies. End user experience is not as good, adoption might not be as high. What the industry is looking for is technologies that allow fast compression, fast encryption at network speed across existing infrastructure and with an endpoint that can handle both encryption and compression. SSL is one of the technologies that have been around for years. SSL is very CPU intensive, and if you run SSL in a mobile device on a battery, battery drains much faster than if you're not using it. And that's one of the negative issues of some of the existing encryption standards. We think there's opportunities in the industry to bring alternative technologies that don't introduce latency, that create strong encryption, that can deliver that network traffic at wire speeds and realize the benefits of cloud and cloud computing. So let's open it up to questions.
Thanks, Vaughan. This is Kyle again. Everyone in the audience, feel free to submit your questions via the control panel, and we will get to those. But we have a couple that we had come in that I'd like to start with. So, Vaughan, for the most part of the SMBs, is cloud migration transformational?
It is. It really is. You know, it's a fundamental shift in business process. It'll affect employees. Expertise erosion. So as SMBs move to manage their applications, their servers, the need for a large IT organization go down. Those resources become redeployed, and then the movement back to kind of on-prem becomes fairly challenging.
Great, and kind of as a follow-up to that, have you seen companies move back from cloud to on-premise operations?
Well, it's still early in the cloud cycle. We don't see a lot of movement back, but if there was, it would be the large organizations that might be able to evaluate their experience in cloud, where the cost savings wasn't realized, where security issues weren't addressed and resolved. You could see large enterprises be able to pull application sets back into on-premise, but really it's only the very large organizations that can redeploy technology individuals that can accommodate that. It's much more difficult for.
All right, great. You touched on encryption a little bit, and I was just wondering if you can go in a little bit farther about the pros and cons of encryption for increasing data security in the cloud.
Sure. Pros really around the encryption in transit and encryption at rest and achieving compliance. There's a number of regulatory and compliance issues that are out there. Payment card industry has their data security standards, and some of that talks specifically to encryption and the need to encrypt at rest. Other industries, healthcare, HIPAA, other compliance, confidentiality, the ability to realize encryption is going to require different technology. It can't be block type encryption methodologies that we've used in the past, and gzip is a really good example. Block compression or encryption is about taking a large amount of data and encrypting and compressing it over time. But rather, what we really want to do is encrypt and compress that data as it streams through the application, as if there's really no impact in time or processor, and technologies are evolving to be realized in that space.
Great, thank you for that. Another question we had is, how can data optimization enable SMBs to reduce the cost of cloud subscription?
Cloud is really priced on a couple of variables: processor, disk, and data transfer. In an optimization, deploying optimization technology really helps reduce the cost of data transfer, data up to the cloud and data down from the cloud. That's one of the best ways to control the cost there. Optimization technology can't increase processor, so the other flip side of that is We don't want to see processors take a long time to optimize that data, because then it's just moving costs from the data bucket to the processor bucket. So any optimization technology that's deployed has to really look at it more holistic, not trading processor for data throughput.
All right, great. We've had some questions about latency. So understanding latency in the cloud can be complicated, as we all know. So what actions can subscribers take to help minimize latency impact?
Currently, latency as it can be in a number of different areas in cloud. Processor, application servers, how long they take to process it in a multi-tenant environment. Sometimes the processors are being used by multiple applications, by multiple cloud providers. So that's one of the issues, making sure that the processor is right. Optimization technology and encryption technology can't introduce latency. Right? We talked about block compression, block encryption. Can't introduce any type of latency into that process. Applications, network, and the endpoint all really need to run at the same level of performance that they would if these were on-prem systems. The network needs to run at the network speed. Can't introduce any additional processing that might be required by an encryption.
Great. And I guess another question about latency is, what is the best way to achieve optimal latency without incurring too high a cost?
Well, you start with what is the network without encryption and compression? Make those measurements, those benchmarks, and then bring technologies in that minimize the additional network time, processor time, to achieve a high level of security and optimization. Certainly a gzip and some of the other technologies, they can achieve compression and encryption, but they'll introduce a fairly high amount of latency. So enterprises that are looking at how do they create strong encryption, how do they reduce their network footprint, would want to look at technologies that can keep the network flow as if the encryption and the compression wasn't there. And that's really the best way to do that. Start with a benchmark, look at technologies that add very low latency to the process.
Great, thanks. So that's about all the questions we've had come in. Vaughan, I'd just kind of like to get closing comments from you. With the current state of cloud, where do you see it going in the next 5 or 10 years or so?
Well, 10 years is a long time. We're certainly seeing enterprises cloud. They're starting with cost savings. That was the first realization that they could lower cost. What we're seeing next is process improvements, time to market. These are benefits that we're going to start to see over the next couple of years. Those are the big changes. Cost savings is really the minimum expectation of anybody moving to cloud. The real benefits are going to be how quickly they can bring new products to market, how it affects a positive change of business processes, and what new markets can they enter.
All right, great. So that's all the questions we have. And I want to thank Vaughan Emery, CEO and President at CENTRI Technology, for a great presentation. Thank you, Vaughan. We're all excited, I think, to see what's coming out of CENTRI in the next few months here. But I want to thank everyone for attending Cloud Transformation, Tackling Growing Challenges, presented by CENTRI Technology. Thank you, everyone, for attending.